welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to be kicking off Plastic Free July with the best person I can think of to talk about this topic, and that's Dr. Jennifer Brandon. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to be here. But let me just tell you a little bit about how amazing Dr. Brandon is. She is a nationally recognized microplastic expert, climate scientist, science communicator, and impact investment advisor who brings over a decade of experience in sustainability, consulting, impact investing, environmental communication, so many things. She's also the founder of Wild Beacon Consulting, where she advises philanthropies and organizations on ESG goals, climate strategies, and actionable sustainability initiatives. She is a powerhouse. Number one, Bettencourt Group does work with her, so we're so fortunate. And also just so fortunate that she took some time to be here. So welcome.
Thank you. And I'm so fortunate to work with you guys, so thank you.
I love it. So yes, we are kicking off Plastic Free July, and I was really thinking about how can we really make the most out of this month and talk about plastic pollution, microplastics throughout the month, and just bring attention to this issue in different types of ways, right? I want to tell a lot of stories from different perspectives, and I want to do deep dives on topics. Bettencourt Group, by the time you're seeing this, has already launched a landing page similar to what we did for World Ocean Month, which thank you all so much for interacting with that page as much as you did. That was so much fun. And so we're doing it again for July, bringing an interactive, interesting experience to really just do a deep dive on this conversation. Dr. Brennan, I think you'll agree with me that, our plastic pollution problem is not just for July, it's year round, it's decade long, and we have a lot of work to do. So talk to me about Plastic Free July. Like, what is it exactly?
Yeah, it's definitely plastic is definitely a year-round problem, but Plastic Free July is just a time that we get to kind of highlight the problem and highlight some of the solutions around it. So similar to World Ocean Month or Earth Month, it lets people just kind of highlight the problem and some of the solutions that people are working on around plastic pollution and single-use plastics and the alternatives that we have to those things.
Yeah, thank you. I've always felt that Plastic Free July is such a good introduction to the problem. People like yourself and so many other scientists and microplastic experts and people in this space obviously have a much deeper conversation, and the conversations that are happening around this topic. But I feel like the everyday person might not even realize how much plastic is so intertwined into our lives that we just don't even realize it. And the history of plastic and just how deeply embedded it is in our society and how we function and how big this problem actually is. And so I love that Plastic Free July kind of gives people that are early on in this journey of understanding the plastic problem. I feel like it's a good entry point. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. It was really designed as kind of this early entry point. It's similar. Its original design was similar to something like Dry January, honestly, or like No Shave November or something. Of like, try to give up some plastic. You can't even honestly go plastic free, let's be honest, but try to give up some plastic items for the month of July. And so whatever that is, whether it's like you're starting at the very beginning of your plastic journey, and so you're just giving up like single-use plastic water bottles for the month of July, or you're giving up taking plastic bags at the grocery store, and you're going to be like, every time I go to the grocery store in July, I will bring reusable bags, and that will be the habit I adopt in July. It was kind of this idea of like, okay, let's take stock of how much plastic is actually in my life, and what are these habits that I need to break, and what are these habits I need to adopt. And really the point of it was like, if you were going to try to go plastic free for a month, what would that look like, and what are kind of like the habits that you could break or the habits you could adopt. And as the science says, it only takes 21 days to make a habit. And so really a lot of people have found that if they're like, I just give up plastic water bottles for the month of July, then they never take them back up. They realize like, oh, I don't need them. It's actually really easy to carry a reusable water bottle everywhere I go.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think it's such an important way to take stock, as you said, of how much plastic we're using in our everyday lives. I know that's something, a journey I've been on for a while now, and always trying to figure out how can I cut back on plastics, because there's two sides to this conversation, and I want to explore this other side in a moment. But the one side of the conversation is this sense of, us individuals, there's so much that we can do in our own lives, there's so much that we can educate other people about plastics. But what about the other side of this conversation? What about the responsibility that organizations and corporations and other people that create these plastics in the first place? What is that like? Because I hear so much about this topic. It really is a debate about what difference can we really make versus holding accountable these organizations that are actually the ones producing this plastic. I mean, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's hard. So I've worked on plastics for over a decade now, and this has always kind of been this thorny issue of like, how much of it do we put on consumers versus on the industries? And consumers can make a big difference. You can really change your own habits, but the biggest differences will always have to come from industries. They are the biggest producers of plastic, and they're the biggest polluters of plastic. And so really where consumers come in is, yes, we can make small differences, but we also have an incredible amount of power. We have an incredible amount of purchasing power. We have an incredible amount of choice. And we do live in a capitalistic society, which means that we actually get to tell these companies what we want. And so one of my favorite examples is BPA-free plastic. For a long time, there were no laws. There was no legislation around BPA-free plastic. It was really that consumers learned how harmful BPA was and were like, we do not want BPA in our plastic, and we certainly don't want it in our baby products. It was really a consumer-driven initiative to take BPA out of all of our plastic. And pretty soon, very quickly actually, you started to see BPA-free plastic in everything in the baby aisle. And then you started to see it through like drinking bottles and all of these things, because consumers actually have a lot of power, and companies listen to us when we say we will pay a little extra for a reusable water bottle that's BPA free, and we can vote with our dollar. But yeah, ultimately, the people that are producing the most plastic and doing the most pollution is not like you individually using one more plastic straw versus one more paper straw. Ultimately, the change really has to happen a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's such a balance between our sense of responsibilities and how we step up in our daily purchases and what we demand of these organizations to do and hold them accountable. And thank you so much for sharing that story about BPA, because it is a marketing point now, right? Everything is, this is free of this, it's free of this. I see it all the time in products, and that makes me really, really happy. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it does speak to the power of the consumer to help drive that kind of change. And the other thing that I think is really exciting is, I think before it was harder to change because there weren't that many options. And now I feel like we really do have plastic alternative options out there, which I think is wonderful and great, because it's basically evidence that you can create this version of this product without plastic in it.
Yes.
And it is just as durable, just as great, just as aesthetic, or whatever it is, as the plastic version. Whereas we didn't really have those options before, now we do. And that makes me very excited, because again, it really shows that people out there are listening, entrepreneurs are listening, startups are listening, thinking, gosh, what can we do to help introduce some new products into this space and help push out plastic? And so tell me a little bit about, because I'm personally very excited about some of these products that I use in my own home. And I love that you're going to be launching this TikTok series about these product alternatives, because sometimes we just do not know that there are other options and we don't know where to begin. So tell us a little bit about this TikTok series that you're launching, and maybe one or two of the products.
Yeah, so I'm launching this TikTok series for Plastic Free July, and with it I'm launching this Amazon storefront that links to some of these products.
We love an Amazon storefront. We love.
Yeah, oh my god, it's really kind of amazing, because a lot of these products, people ask me these things all the time, and so really I'm doing this because these are the questions like my mom asks me and my friends ask me about, like, wait, what are you using to wash your clothes? Like, what are you using in the kitchen that's to decrease your microplastic exposure, or to be, more plastic, use less plastic, to be more like toxin friendly or whatever. And so I'm using this platform to kind of break this down into bite-sized pieces of like, okay, this is what I store my food in. These are like, the reusable plastic bags that I use. These are the reusable water bottles that I use. And you're so right. It is so much easier now than it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's really wild how easy it's become. And so like, I have not had single-use plastic bag, like sandwich bags in my kitchen in probably like a decade. But when I started doing that as a grad student, it was hard. Like the options that were out there were not easy. Now I only have stasher bags and they are so easy, and I just throw them in the dishwasher. I can throw them in the freezer. Like they're so easy, but they last forever. And so I talk about those in there. I talk about how I've changed all my pans out to these like caraway pans because of the forever chemicals that are sitting on your nonstick pans.
Yes.
And yeah, I talk about the reusable water bottles that I love. I mean, I try to never buy a single-use water bottle. It's just one of the easiest things to get rid of. And so I'm talking about a lot of those things, and the cleaning products that I use. A lot of them you can really get rid of a lot of plastic with your cleaning products. Or you can buy things that are in 100% recycled plastic bottles, which in itself is also helpful because only 9% of plastic that's ever been produced has ever been recycled. And so buying things that are still plastic but in 100% recycled bottles is like helping that whole cycle be more sustainable.
Yeah, when I heard that statistic, I was just gutted about it.
Yeah.
You hear so much about reuse, recycle, and yeah, it's heartbreaking how little stuff actually gets recycled. And so anything that we do to help address that is a win in my book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the recycling system in this country is pretty broken, and so anything you buy that is 100% recycled or 90% recycled is really helping that system kind of right itself and figure out how to put value back into that system.
Yes. So tell me, has there been anything out there that you've heard about lately that you're excited about? Any innovations and new products or new technologies that you're excited about as far as helping to address this plastic problem?
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of the plant-based or bio-based plastics people are working on. For a long time, that was kind of like a pipe dream, this like idea that maybe in 10 years we'll be able to have sustainable plastic or truly biodegradable plastic. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that being a real thing. There's a lot of companies building seaweed-based plastic, corn-based plastic, sugar-based plastic, all of these really cool things. And what's so exciting about a lot of those is that they can make things out of plastic that can really go after some of the plastic sectors that we have not been able to make reusable. So we can make reusable bags, we can make reusable bottles, we can make reusable straws, but like really thin film plastic, like the thin film that comes around like your dry cleaning, or the thin film that comes around like clothes that you get like in the mail when you order new clothes. Saran wrap, that kind of thin film is very hard to make out of anything else, and it's impossible to recycle. There's a few specialty places that will recycle it, but it's basically impossible to recycle. There are companies now that are making that out of seaweed-based plastic, and then it's compostable, which is amazing. And so there's some really cool things like that that are starting to happen. There's some companies that are trying to make plastic that will actually biodegrade in seawater, which would be a game changer if they can really figure it out. So yeah, there's some really cool things happening in that space of like plastic alternatives that make me really excited.
That's awesome. It makes me excited too. I try to stay on top of it, and I really want to make this landing page for this month a place where all these types of exciting updates and innovations will just be linked and kind of curated so that if you're curious about what's happening for Plastic Free July, if you want to know of like some feel-good stories and some really interesting innovations, you can just go to this landing page and find all that information and resources as well. We are linking Dr. Brandon's Amazon storefront on the website, so if you're not sure where to begin a Plastic Free July, you can start there because she has really great everyday practical items that you can start using right now that will replace other plastic stuff in your kitchen, your bathroom, just in your living altogether, and every little bit helps. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much for enlightening me and for coming on here and sharing so much with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Gosh, thank you for having me.
Amazing. So definitely check the website and stay tuned for other really great videos just like this on BGTV. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.